Hello again, everyone. Jim here from Remick Museum and Farm, and I thought I'd share another fun lesson that you can do at home. I am at the farm today, but this is something that you can certainly just do around your house if you have some space outside or even sometimes inside, because we're going to focus on insects. Insects are everywhere, and unfortunately, they are in decline right now, and I think that's a really good time for us to really think about studying them and think about how important they are for us. While it's really exciting to get out and see some cool birds or a fox or anything, a large animal that we seldom see, it's easy. That makes it easy to overlook the insects that are always around. And even though they are small, they might be something that we kind of see all the time. I don't know that we necessarily focus on them enough. So this would be a good chance to really kind of zoom in, I guess, think about how they are interacting with their environment, what they're doing. You can study some behavior. You can help see how they are classified in different groups of insects. We can figure out exactly what an insect is, what makes it different from maybe a different arthropod, different types of invertebrates, right? Different spiders or things like an earthworm. Why are those not insects? So that will be a fun thing for us to do today. And I'll show you some different examples of things that I'm seeing around the farm, but really mostly in the gardens and some of the museum spaces that'll be similar to things you would find at home. So let's go and look and see what is around insect-wise here at Remick Museum. All right, so fortunately for insect observation, we don't need much in the way of materials. Really, you just need something to write with and something to write in. So a notebook and a pen or a pencil. We're not capturing today, we're just observing, so we don't have to worry about any collection jars. We have a bunch of field guides out today. I love field guides and love how you can pack them with you and identify on the spot. Not necessary. You can always just make observations and write down what you're seeing and then find a way to maybe identify later. Field guides are pretty amazing though, and they can be very specific, right? I have some that are just signs and tracks. I have katydids and crickets, or then just more generic ones where they're just all kinds of different insects or other arthropods sometimes. But again, not necessary. Really, you just need that notebook and something to write with. All right, our first stop is at the garden, and this means lots of pollinators. So we've got a honeybee here buzzing around and gathering nectar for itself, but also helping to move pollen around. Similarly, we've got a little sweat bee, if you can see it, a little bit harder to notice here, but it's buzzing around and also helping to pollinate. And I do want to add, certainly we're not capturing today, and we want to learn more about insects, and most of our pollinators, bees, wasps especially, aren't so scary, but if you are allergic or if you don't know if you're allergic or not, we do want to be careful and don't want to get too close, or maybe just trying to avoid the things that do sting. Right in here we have a paper wasp, pretty amazing. They make their nests with chewed up wood and come back and often like to be in places where people are. Fortunately, they're not super aggressive. Usually if you're not within a foot or two of their nest they're building, they're not going to come and attack. Of course, if you do disturb them, they can sting. But for gardeners, we often think of them as being kind of a pest. Really, what they're doing is they're going after soft-bodied other insects, namely caterpillars. So if you've got a caterpillar infestation that you get worried about in your garden, these wasps are actually really good at helping to control that population. But in a native and natural way, right? This is happening as it should be. And then finally, on our last little bit here, we've got some more pollinators out in the garden, another bumblebee, or a honeybee, excuse me, but we also have some, they're non-native, which is okay. They help pollinate and have been brought in. But very important are our native pollinators like bumblebees. And these bumblebees, again, not aggressive at all. We don't want to step on them. We don't want to intrude, but they're not really going to go after you. They're just looking for their for food, for their nectar from those flowers and helping us pollinate, which is so vital for the garden. And finally, this is going to be super hard to see, but I found another little sweat bee out in the out by the museum in some of our landscaping flowers. So see if you can spot this wonderful little sweat bee. All right, so up near the museum in one of our little garden spaces, I found this mound, which, lots of things dig underground, but what could this be? Maybe I should get up a little closer to investigate. And, oh, I don't think it's a mole, I don't think it's a groundhog. I'm seeing some little tiny holes, right? And that's gonna maybe indicate that I have an ant colony of some sort. Now again, we often think about ants as being nuisances. Some of them actually do come into our houses, like carpenter ants and things, and can be kind of destructive. But for the most part, ants are, net beneficial, especially ones that are in the ground. They help to move the soil around, aerate the soil. They are actually pollinators as well. They help move little tiny seeds of some of our wildflowers, which is pretty great. And for the most part, they are okay with us too. Some definitely do bite and sting. They are actually relatives of wasps and bees, so they have those same abilities sometimes. So we do want to watch out. And I was only able to see a couple of little ants running around here.
And here we have one of our garden favorites, the tiger swallowtail butterfly, and it's about ready to fly off right now.
If you've got a tree somewhere close to where you're at right now, they are a great place to find insects and observations. So here is some holes left behind. So my first guess would be a caterpillar. That's often what's feeding on them. And here we have some little very small caterpillars, which probably just recently hatched. My concern is that they're gypsy moth caterpillars. When they're bigger, they have very distinct dotting patterns. But very invasive. They take away habitat of native species. To the right there might be a lacewing. I didn't see it when I was identifying earlier. And hopefully they're there to eat those caterpillars, which would be great. They are wonderful for aphids and other things. And speaking of invasive pests, unfortunately we have an Asian beetle here, very similar looking to our native ladybugs or ladybird beetles. Unfortunately, they're usually a bit bigger. They have a very distinctive M shape up on where their head is. And again, they displace those native ladybird beetles and take away their habitat and don't have as many positives. They're not eating the aphids. Now here's a cool find, a very fun observation I made, something I found evidence-wise. First off, this is my favorite time to look at trees. You can see the oak right here. We have the new leaves growing. We have the flowers. We've got little baby acorns that are just growing. And then we have this odd looking sphere. Almost looks like a fruit, but it is not. This is what's called a gall. And this is from a oak gall wasp. And what happens is, it's super cool. The female wasp actually lays her eggs inside of the plant material. Usually the stem. This one's right at the base of the leaf here. And that larva, when it's growing after it hatches from the egg, is able to then feed on this gall that grows. Because when the female wasp lays that egg inside the plant has a reaction. Actually, the DNA on the inside is changed up in a way that instead of growing a leaf or a fruit, it grows this odd-looking gall, and then the larva can feed on it from the inside. So super cool. Now these wasps, these gall wasps that lay these eggs and have these galls grow on these trees are very small. They're not the typical wasps that we think about flying around and stinging us. They're very, very small. They're like gnat-sized and are very much not a bother to humans. But they do leave these very cool galls. Eventually it'll turn brown, and as I hike, I often find them in the fall and the late summer on the trail sides underneath oak trees. Oak trees are very popular for this. And you can often pick one up and see the hole where the larva came out of. Actually, other wasps will often find these galls, lay their
eggs inside, and the larvae of those different wasps will use the other larvae as food. So all kinds of ecosystem situations going on, right? Food webs, food chains, depending on how you want to look at it. And as I was looking around, I found a few more. So there's just in a few minutes I looked at this tree, I found 3 growing oak galls, which is super cool. And on my way over to the pond, I found this little beetle on the fence post, and not sure what this one is, didn't have my field guide. Maybe a little leaf beetle of some sort. There are thousands of species of beetle in North America, and many of them are super important, provide excellent ecosystem services like pollination. I had to, stop over by the pond after visiting the goslings for a moment there and found some cool things. There's a red-winged blackbird waiting patiently to find some food, most likely. There were some swallows that were kind of diving down and grabbing their food too. And most likely a lot of that was insects. And water is a great place to find insects. Whether you have a pond accessible or a stream or even just a puddle after a rain, it's a great place. Of course, those bigger waterways, make sure that you're being safe with an adult if you're going to visit some of these places. But even those puddles are a great place to find insects in or just around that water, or to things that are trying to find them for food.
All right, thanks for joining me for a video this week. I hope everyone got a little inspiration to get out and see if you can find some cool insects. They really are almost everywhere. So if we're looking around, it's easy to overlook them sometimes because they're so small, but they really are everywhere, and you can really observe their behaviors, see what they're doing, how they're surviving wherever they're at, wherever you're at. So again, if you're following along on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Keep getting these videos each week. And if you're following on Facebook, make sure you give us a like and see everything that's going on at the museum. And I'd like to make sure everyone's doing well, and take care. See you again. Bye.